I think it hit me when we found out that we had 3 people who were deceased. I've been a police officer on campus here for 22 years. I knew the location where these occurred, and I knew that at the time, even though we didn't know it, there was a high probability that they were members of our community and that they were students. Being a father myself and having 3 kids, it hit me at that point that there are so many parents around the state that were watching this, not knowing if their student, if their child was involved. So I think that's when I may have went off script a little bit at the news conferences and said, we're going to be as human as we can in sharing this information because this is significant. But to know that there were, 5 victims, then 3 were deceased, and we had 5 additional at the hospital with life-threatening injuries. That was when it hit me that how big the scale of the incident. I think in this case, we never expected there to be so much misinformation, and I think there were so many people listening to the police scanner, and there was a lot of information on the police scanner that wasn't vetted or accurate yet. And and that's one of our takeaways is how do we tell people that don't believe what you hear on the scanner? That's why we need to be the ones to vet that information and to disseminate that information. And is there a better way for us to do that? So I think that's kind of one of the takeaways that we had is we talk about communication all the time, communicating with the public and everything, but combating that misinformation is the one thing that really presented a challenge in this case. And we've said all along that there's only one shooter. We stand by that. We do not believe anybody else to be involved with this incident, and we believe that after the shooter left the Union building, he left campus. Now, in terms of his route and where he went, we may be able to speak more specific to that in the upcoming weeks, but we believe he left campus at that point. With that being said, we appreciate all of our community members and our students that called 911 to report suspicious activity, to report what they believed were gunshots. But there were so many people barricading doors, moving things around, making noise, that a lot of the noises that people heard that they thought were gunshots were not gunshots. A lot of the calls that went out on the radio, on the scanner, we had officers at the location. And so as soon as the call went out that there was shots fired, as police officers, we know what shots sound like. And so we were able to quickly say, I was standing right here and there were no shots. It doesn't lessen the experience that somebody had when they thought those were gunshots, because that's what their experience was, and we respect that. But we quickly knew a lot of those calls were not accurate. As part of our investigation, we'll follow up with each and every one of those calls to make sure that it was really just people perceiving things that really didn't actually happen, just to make sure that none of them had any nefarious intent or were intentional hoaxes or anything like that. The other thing that we've been told by our federal partners is sometimes when there's an act of mass violence, sometimes people that are not even connected with that event use that as an opportunity to amplify the crisis. And so we haven't ruled that out at this point. We haven't confirmed it either, but that is something that we'll look at as part of our investigation to ensure that none of those calls were made intentionally as a way to maybe distract law enforcement resources with no affiliation to the shooter whatsoever. I was elated that we could tell people that there was no longer a threat. I knew at the time that we had students and faculty and staff that were barricaded in rooms and closets that were in fear for their life. It's a range of emotions for me, but personally, the fact that we could tell people that we got you. You are safe now. You don't have to hide anymore. The threat is over. That was overwhelming for me. I wanted to let people know that, and we wanted to let people know that they were safe. I want people to know that our officers, not only our MSU police officers that were first in the door, but all of the police officers that responded to this acted valiantly. They acted heroically. They followed their training, and they were on a mission that night to hunt down whoever committed this violent act. They were laser focused. They followed their training. I am proud of them. I'm proud of each and every one of them. And there's no doubt that they saved additional lives that night. And I can't say enough good. the acts of heroism that went on behind the scenes, I don't think will ever be able to be completely told. But man, our officers did an amazing job, and I'm so proud of them.